Hi, and welcome to My John 17 for Life. This is a Christian podcast about finding your calling, understanding God's will, and learning how to live a life of purpose through faith and obedience. John 17:4 says, I have brought you glory on earth by finishing the work you gave me to do. And that's the heart behind what we do here. Because so many of us are asking, what is my purpose? What is God calling me to do? And how do I know if I'm living in God's will? And sometimes we don't need more pressure, we need clarity. In this podcast, I sit down with real people from all walks of life, moms, business owners, pastors, creatives, and everyday believers who are learning how to follow God, hear His voice, and walk in the purpose He has for their lives. If you've ever felt unsure about your direction, overwhelmed by life, or disconnected from your purpose, you're in the right place. Hi, Amy. Thanks for coming on today and sharing your story. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how your journey with God started.
I would be happy to. So the big thing that I have been talking about lately is something that happened to me 6 years ago. I was a cradle Catholic. I'm 55 right now, but I kind of just sort of went to church because I had to, and kind of kicking and screaming when I was younger. And then, of course, college, everything just went crazy, and 20s didn't hardly go at all. And I became a little more serious when we had children. My husband, who's not Catholic, my husband and I agreed I would raise them in the Catholic Church alone, which was not very easy, as a lot of your listeners, viewers probably know. And basically, I just wasn't a very happy camper. I just kind of limped along. I described myself as a miserable lump in the pew, basically.
Yeah.
Lumpy was my nickname for myself all those years ago. But I had a moment that just transformed everything in the summer of 2020. I was about to turn 50. I was on my way to a wedding with my husband. So we were in the car, pandemic masks ready to go, August 2020. And I told John, I think I'm going to leave the Catholic Church. And my husband said, oh, okay, why? And I said, well, number one, I'm tired of not receiving communion because, Samantha, I had been married before. And in the Catholic Church, if you get a divorce and then remarry without going through the annulment procedure, you cannot receive communion. And I was tired of that, just tired of it. But the other thing I was tired of is I just felt alone. I had felt empty for a lot of years. And I thought, maybe if I leave the Catholic Church, go to another church, things will be better. So this was on a Saturday. The following Tuesday, I was on a training walk. I used to walk half marathons.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Now I'm a little more sensible. I do 10Ks. So I'm starting this training walk, and my pastor at the time called me. His name is Father Tom. Called me out of the blue and said, hey, Amy, I'm leaving the parish in 3 weeks. Our region, it's called a diocese. They were doing some, as I call them, the pastor shuffle. They were just transferring priests to different churches, as they do sometimes. And he said, I'm going to leave in a few weeks. I've been doing some thinking. Before I leave, I'd like to help you finish the process so you can receive communion again. My jaw dropped. He had no clue where my thoughts were. Once again, God moment. Had to agree. I said to him, well, thank you, Father. Can I think about this? He said, sure, but don't take too long because I'm leaving soon. Okay, great. So disconnected, and I'm walking along, and all of a sudden I'm thinking, you still have 90 minutes ahead of you. That's a lot of time to do some thinking. So as I walked, thought about what I told my husband, and I said, I'm going to do it. So I called Father Tom back and I said, hey, let's do this. And I couldn't believe we could get it done. I really didn't. But boy, Samantha, we worked hard. We worked together. There were a lot of tears. There was a lot of pain. I had tried to do this years ago, but it was too hard with 2 little kids, and I just never got it done. And so unbelievably, we finished the process. And so on August 22nd of 2020, the day after my 50th birthday, I received communion again for the first time in decades. And it was from a dear friend of mine by the name of Michelle. She's a communion minister. And Samantha, it's really funny. I tell people that for my 50th birthday, which was the day before, we went in a hot air balloon ride. It was awesome. However, I tell people I flew higher that evening, receiving communion again. I cried that night. My husband was there. Didn't even ask him to be there. He was there. One of my friends was there. And I said, God, you've got me now. You have me. I will not miss church anymore unless I'm dying or somebody else is dying or I'm sick. I will go. I will embrace this. And the Holy Spirit just grabbed me. And so from that weekend on, my life has been so changed. And it led me in January of 2024 to think about helping other solo attendees. I was walking my dogs and I thought, I'm so happy now, solo at church. I wish there were a book to help others be this happy, to want to go to church, not just because, to want to go, not because they have to go. And I thought, wait a minute, I'm an author. I could do this. Weird. And so that led me to write Happy and Solo at Church, which was just released in April of 2026.
Wow. Matthew West wrote a song about that. God, don't you see this? Why don't you do something? And God's like, I did. I made you do something. It's a kick in the pants for me every time I tell God that there's some things he needs to fix. And he's like, okay, what are you going to do?
Yep.
No, not me. No, don't send me. I got to give my Moses excuses of don't send me. And maybe Jonah run away from it for a while. The whole thing. There are seasons in life, and some are harder than others. And no matter whether you grew up going to church or not, there are hard seasons because we're humans. But one of the advantages we have being in God is that he is going to complete the work he starts in us. And there's threads that you can see hindsight looking back. I'm like, oh, that's why that had to happen. Oh, that's what I was learning. What are one of those threads that led you from that hard season to your calling?
Ooh, gosh. Well, I would say it had to have been that first communion. And then once I decided to write the book, I went to the Taylor University Writers Conference. Taylor University is in Indiana, just an hour north of me. And that really lit my fire for my calling. I had written a little bit in the book, but, just not too much was happening at that point. And I went to that conference, and Taylor University is a Christian university. And I met with an author. I'm going to give a little shout out to Peggy Sue Wells, incredible author. And we had a one-on-one session, and she said, here's who you need to talk to get this book published. And I reached out to, she referred me to 2 or 3 places. I reached out to the first one, nothing really happened. The second one, Elk Lake Publishing, they said, yes, in February of 2025, we want to publish your book. And that was it. I was off and running. The fire was going again. And that's how this book is now a reality.
I love that. It's the thing that I keep seeing over and over. God tells you to do something, and then he's waiting for you to do something. And then he gives you the next step. And then you do something, and he gives you the next step. And usually it's tied to a gift, but it's also tied to something that he's going to make you stretch. He's going to pull you out of your comfort zone, because if it's in your comfort zone, then it's you.
Yeah.
And if it's not your comfort zone, you're like, okay, I see you. I get it.
Oh, yeah. Has he kicked me out of my comfort zone?
Well, John Maxwell talks about the law of the rubber band and how it's stretching. And the thing that I came to realize how it attaches to my faith is that if a rubber band gets old and dry, it breaks. But if you keep it lubricated, it can stretch and stretch and stretch. And that lubrication for me is my time with God. I don't want to do that. That's one of the things I'm like, God, I don't want to do that. Are you kidding me? No, go find somebody else who's already equipped and qualified. Nope, this is for you. This calling to write the book led from the experience that you had. But every calling requires a cost. And I've had a lot of people say, well, if it's from God, it shouldn't cost me anything. And it may not cost financially, but there is a cost. What has that cost been for you?
Time. Before I would go to church, I'd pray here and there. No, now there's a lot more to it. I don't just go to church. I went on a pilgrimage trip to Italy last fall, which was a big deal in the Catholic Church. It was a Jubilee year. And you can look that up online. I won't go into specifics, but yeah, it was exciting. I went overseas. I went on a trip, but there was so much to prepare for it. It was a choir trip. And so we had a lot of rehearsals, not always the most convenient times. I loved it, but it was a lot of hard work, a lot of time, a lot of sacrifice. There was certainly money involved. We had to sacrifice quite a bit so I could go on this trip, but completely and totally worth it. Life-changing pilgrimage. I saw things like some of the chains that held St. Paul and things I'll never, ever forget. So yeah, the greatest thing is definitely sacrifice, but to me, it's been a sacrifice of time. It's been a joyful thing, though. The pilgrimage was wonderful. I did a 90-day program, and there's a lot of similar ones. I did research for my book. I see that there's a lot of 90-day programs in other churches. I did one called Magnify 90 that started off 2026, 3 months. Ooh, you want to talk about giving things up? It was things like no sweets and all sorts of different things, but it's left me now with a lot of habits I still continue. I devote much more time to prayer now. Every day. I'm reaching out. I'm volunteering more to do more things at church. And overall, it's fun, but that's a lot of dedication. It's a lot of sacrifice. It's so worth it, though. So worth it. But yeah, sometimes I'm tired.
Yes. It's hard in the beginning of the sacrifice. It's kind of like, when you started walking marathons, it's hard, but that's the stretching. My little boys are in martial arts, and then the first thing that he has them do is run around the mat. They're like, this is dumb. We don't do this. He's warming up your muscles. And then they do things where they're laying on the mat and moving in different ways. And they're like, that's dumb. And so I had them watch The Karate Kid from the 1980s.
Oh, yeah.
Where he's like, wax on, wax off. And they're like, that's dumb. And I'm, okay, wait. And so when Miyagi comes in and tells him, wax on, wax off, and he shows him that what he's been doing the whole time was building that memory. That's what he's doing with what you did. You were okay, and then he stretched you. You were okay, and then he stretched you, and he's like, nope, we're going further this time. And the stretch is uncomfortable. The building of muscle is uncomfortable. My sister says if God's going to stretch you, you might as well go to the gym too.
Yep.
It's that verse, John 17:4. That is a verse that when communion was served, I would read that prayer.
Now.
Jesus says, in the prayer, that verse always stuck out to me. I have glorified you on earth. I finished the work you called me to do. So when you tie that in with the talents, the 5 talent, the 3 talent, and the 1 talent that was buried, God was very much of, this is it. This is judgment. I'm not going to ask you why you didn't do this. I'm going to say, why didn't you do what I told you to do? What have you done? Are you burying your talent? That is what that verse means to me.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. It's like when I get there for the day of judgment, that's what God's going to say to me. What does that verse mean to you?
I love that. It means that you need to stretch and you need to grow. That's one of my favorite stories from the Bible. I remember years ago, like a lot of people, hearing that going, well, that person was just being careful. They were just being safe. What's wrong with that? And the more I heard it and the more that our leaders, pastor has talked about it as time has gone on, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, yes. If we bury everything and hide, we're not doing what we're supposed to on this earth. And so now I get it. And so now I'm like, okay, that story means we got to get out there into the world, take chances, take risks, smart risks,
Right.
But yeah, that's what that story now means to me. I no longer sit there and fold my arms like, what do you mean? Now I'm like, oh, I get it.
Well,
We're supposed to grow.
In a way, it makes sense to hide the talent because you didn't want to lose it.
Yeah.
My daughters are artists. And I'm like, God gave you that talent for a reason. And not all of the talents and gifts are meant to be going into ministry. They're meant to do other things, whether it's writing a fiction, writing music. My daughters are into manga, which is an Asian version of a comic book. They love manga.
Yes, my oldest loves that.
And so they are working on one together. My daughter who's 26 and my daughter who's 13 are working on a manga together. And it's interesting to see that talent that they thought was just nothing to become useful to God. Writing a book is a big thing. People think it's like, oh, it's easy to write a book.
No. And lots of people say they're going to do it, and they never do. The hardest part is getting started every time.
I think it was Miles Monroe who said that the richest place in the world is a graveyard. All the people who took all the things with them. But you said you were an author before this book?
Yes. I have been writing stories and books since I was 7 years old. I'm definitely a word nerd. because when my parents gave me a Kmart Snappy Blue typewriter that typed in all caps when I was 8, I was so excited. I would sit on our living room floor and type away. But then I got serious about 13 years ago. I published self-published a novel called Hoop Mama. And what you just talked about makes sense. I'm a hoop dancer. Dancing with a hula hoop. And I often teach others how to do this. And so that novel is based on a fictional hoop dancer. And it's been really neat how the hoop dancing, just for exercise, I'm not really, I didn't start it thinking about God, how it has connected me to people and how we hoop dance to Christian music. And our conversations often go to God. And it's like, oh, yeah, cool. So I did Hoop Mama, a couple of other nonfiction books with a smaller publisher. 4 years ago, I went through a hybrid publisher, Warren Publishing, and I released Interviews by a Clueless White Woman. And the title is a good summary of what it is. I interview people of different faiths, different backgrounds, different abilities, etc., just to share their stories. And now Happy and Solo at Church is out.
I love that. He's building you, he's stretching you, he's getting you ready for that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like all the other things were silly. And it didn't make sense, but he's built you up, built your writing, so you feel confident to do this.
I do. And now I tell people I'm a Christian author. That's it. I haven't always told myself that, but I am. That's it. As long as Elk Lake Publishing will have me, I'll keep working with them.
And you do stick your neck out. You can't be a turtle. Your neck is out. And sorry, not sorry, but the Christian community can be brutal.
Yeah.
They can be some of the most judgmental, vicious people.
I had a gentleman, he rides a bike around our neighborhood, and he came to my booth when I had Interviews by a Clueless White Woman there. And he looked at the book and he looked at the poster, and I won't repeat the comment, but he said a nasty comment and rode away. And I see him riding around our neighborhood, and I'm just like, okay. Okay.
It is difficult because you want to glorify God, you want to serve God, and it's easy to have imposter syndrome.
Yes.
In the process of writing your book, is it fiction or nonfiction?
It's nonfiction.
Okay, I thought so. Okay, if it's just a regular fiction book, it's one thing. If it's a historical fiction, there's a whole other context. But in nonfiction, you've got a lot of research you have to do, because that's one place where people are going to poke holes at you. What is it like working with a publisher, having all of those checks that you have to cross with the editing and refining and the research? Talk about that line through that.
Thank you. Yes, that is challenging as a nonfiction writer. The research, number one, you're looking around, you're talking to different people. I interviewed some people for this book, not as many as the last book, but so yeah, there's a lot to that. And Elk Lake Publishing is the first publisher that spelled out everything ahead of time. So I probably had 20 to 25 PDF documents to review about how to get this right, how to cite sources, etc. So yeah, there was some learning for that, first of all. And then you mentioned the editing process. I'm so glad you did that. I have a funny story about that. I had never been edited as much as I was for this book. I think we had 4 rounds. And then there was the final round, the 5th round, which is the galley, which is your PDF, which basically shows you how the book is going to look.
Right.
And I have a confession. Last summer, I complained to a friend of mine about all this editing. And I have told Elk Publishing I did complain. They know. But then it hit me. They just want the book to be the best it can be, so people can read it and take it seriously and hopefully change their lives because of it. And the more we went on, the more I thought, oh, I'm so grateful. I didn't mention earlier, Samantha, my day job. I'm a fundraising consultant, so I write a lot of grant proposals.
Okay.
Yes, I'm also a newspaper columnist. So I'm a writer overall in life. By making me go through that editing process, it changed my writing in all areas of my life. I think I'm the best now, the best I've ever been as far as writing. And that's thanks to that editing. Yes. I'm incredibly grateful now for it. I even wrote a column about it, about how I folded my arms and pouted in the beginning. And now I'm grateful. I'm grateful for all those rounds. I'm grateful for all those hours, because now I know my book is the best it can be.
Well, especially as a grant writer, because I learned some of that too. And you only have so much space and so many words, and you've got to get everything in Precisely. I have several other writer friends, and the way that I've understood it is your first draft is like a kindergartner making a cup in art class.
Yes.
And what you want to be is the fine china. And they keep sticking you in the fire. Every time they send it back with the red marks on it, it's sticking in the fire. This is too wordy. This doesn't make sense. What are you talking about? I have no idea. And I learned that with my kids, with homeschooling. When they get into high school, we do collaborative writing. And they'll write and I'll tell them what I think of it. And in a way, it's helped them take criticism better because that's somebody attacking your child. Your book is your child.
That's why I was all pouty.
Somebody's attacking your child, and it's hard not to get defensive. No, I have to have that story in here. It's important. Screenwriters go through the same thing. They go through the same thing. They have to take stuff out to make it better. It's got to be, you have to say as much as possible in as little words as possible and still paint word pictures.
Yes. And so now I am embracing the editing. In fact, a friend of mine, I applied to speak at her church about the book. And she came back to me and said, this is too Catholic-y, basically. She's right. If I'm going to speak to other churches, I can't have everything peppered about the Catholic Church. I have to focus outside of it.
Right.
And so I'm really glad she said that, and I thanked her for it.
Well, it is. It's different. It's different. My dad grew up Catholic. His mother, very Catholic. And I'm not, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because my thought process is that God says to make my calling and election sure. And I'm to work out my salvation with fear and trembling. And that means my relationship is personal. And how God works in my life is not the same as even how he works in my children's life. And so everybody has to walk the path. But as of speaking to other people, that's one of the other things I've learned from John Maxwell is you have to tailor it to the crowd.
Yes.
To what he said he was, I think he was in Russia and he was talking to the person who got him over there. And he was talking about how the people have trouble because the government's corrupt. And the first thing he said, and it is the thing he says now all the time, hello, my name is John and I am your friend. That you had to establish that connection because what you're going through, what your book is about, it spans all faiths in Christianity. It does. You have single moms, you have widows, you have people who've never been married. You have people who are young and doing it on their own.
Yes.
And that's a hard thing to walk that path alone. So people who are listening, who are feeling like they don't have anything to offer, I only have one talent. It's not even that big of a talent. There's nothing in me that God can use. These are things that I've actually heard people say.
Oh.
It's very painful to hear the pain in their voice. From your perspective, what would you say to them about their calling?
Please pray about it and examine it. So, for example, I just met with somebody. We have an Airbnb that's starting today to have guests. And I just met with a woman who is going to help us clean on occasion when my husband and I can't. I am so grateful for her. Because she's helping to relieve a burden. And a lot of people would be like, cleaning, bottom of the barrel, just somebody who cleans, I know janitor maybe is an out term. I know now it's more like maintenance or whatever people, but you can make a huge difference in something as insignificant as that. We have cleaning angels in our church that come once a month, and I don't know what we would do without them. I want to do that when I retire. I want to go and be one of those cleaning angels because they make such a difference. It's always a welcoming place. And so please don't ignore those small talents. They can make a tremendous difference, even if it's just for one person. My goodness.
I went on a cruise and my cleaning person took such good care of me. And I had been told to bring something with me from where I came from. And so I picked up a few things and brought it with me. And it created a relationship dynamic. Just the little kindnesses, little bitty things that made a difference. And yeah, kindness goes a long, long way. I was at Bible study yesterday morning and there was women coming right behind me. So I just held the door open so it didn't slam on them. And one of the women said, they're so nice here. I've never been to a place that's so nice. And I'm like, huh? But it's those little things that I didn't think about that just are natural to me. As an American, you don't let the door slam in somebody's face. You at least hold it so they can get a hold of it.
Yes.
But those little things do matter. We have talked about a lot of things, but is there anything you wish I would have asked you that you believe the listeners need to know?
Well, sure. How about I summarize what people can get from the book. And even if they don't get the book, what I want to tell them to do if they're a solo church attendee.
Yes.
All right. So yes, I would love it if people buy the book, but more importantly, I want to have solo attendees at churches be happier. I don't want lumps in the pew anymore.
Right.
I want people to love going to church like I do. I get there early now. I engage. I talk to all kinds of other people. I find other solo people and make sure that they're seen. And I try to greet them. And I'm one of the last people to leave. My car is usually one of the last ones in the parking lot now. That didn't happen before. I was the queen of the parking lot boogie before. So to love going to church solo, here are my top 5 things I'd like people to take away. So number 1, I want people to strengthen their foundation. And this can happen in baby steps. Like you said, there's different seasons of life, right? So there's the season where you've got a lot of little kids, babies, toddlers, preschoolers. You can't do a lot of the volunteer stuff and a ton of stuff, but maybe for an hour a month, you can go to a talk somewhere or volunteer somewhere. Maybe you can steal like a half hour a day and read a great book. I highly recommend Randy Alcorn. His books have changed my life. Listen to a podcast while you're vacuuming one day with your earbuds. Work to strengthen your foundation. That's crucial because if you don't have that, first, you're not going to be successful in other areas when you're attending church alone. Next, I encourage people to go to church with others in your situation. I was really blessed, Samantha. I actually found another mom with 2 boys who was going to church alone. And this was 20 some years ago. And I just saw her and said, hey, would you like somebody to sit with you? And here we are, decades later. Karen and I are friends. Our sons are friends. And it's just been tremendous. And when you find somebody else in your situation, get to know them. Go to church with them. I now go to church regularly. I attend on Saturday evenings with 2 other solo ladies. And I love these ladies. I see them more than I see a lot of other people. And so, yeah, go to church with others in your situation, and it makes a tremendous difference. The next point is if you're married and you're going to church solo, and there are a lot of us out there.
Yes.
Do all you can to get the support of your spouse. My husband gets nervous because when I go out and speak to people, he's nervous people are going to think poorly of him, that he doesn't go to church with me. And I explained to them, when we got married, my faith wasn't as strong as it is now. He wasn't Catholic. I didn't care when we got married. And I still, would it be great if he went to church with me? Yes. But he has been the best support for me. The night of my book launch, he was by my side, ringing up people. I mean, working his little tail off. And he's always been supportive. And so if you have to get that support, if you don't, work to get it. Talk with your pastor, get counseling, get that support. My next point is to find and meet with your God friends as often as possible. I have a lot of God friends. That's what I like to call them. It's just men and women that I meet for lunch or just chat with on a walk, and we talk about all things God. And the more you talk with those God friends, that really builds you up as a solo attendee. And my last point is to create your own church family. And I've just started to use this phrase in the last couple of years. It hit me, my church, that's a second home now.
Right.
And like I mentioned, I see these people more than I see a lot of my friends week in and week out. And so I'm starting to love on them more. I'm starting to bring them lasagnas. I'm starting to check in with them and say, hey, how's your wife doing? I know her lungs have been bothering her. Is the treatment helping now? I'm getting to know them and asking them questions and just loving on them. And oh gosh, it's so much more fun this way to have a church family. And so, yeah, those are my tips today. Strengthen your foundation. Go to church with others in your situation. If you're married, get the support of your spouse if you're attending church solo. Find and meet with those God friends and create your own church family. And on that last point, how do you do that? Not just by going to church, but volunteering, doing things at church, going to the fun things. Samantha, up until a couple years ago, I never did any of the fun things at church. I can't believe that. We have so many fun things to do, so many social events. So go to those. Find your other friends that are in your situation. Get a group together. Go. If you're nervous to go alone, gather those people around, and it'll make all the difference in the world as a solo attendee if you do just a few of those tips.
I attend a very large church, and there's a lot of people that I haven't met because we have several services, so people don't always go to the same service.
And
they don't always sit in the same spot. I have an autistic son who can't handle a lot of the noise, so we tend to sit generally in the same areas.
Sure.
But my small group, that's what I would call my church family. I've got 2 different ones that I'm a part of. That's who I do the Bible studies with, and they know everything. They're the ones that I messaged when I had to rush my daughter to the ER. They know. They're the ones who it's like, if one more thing happens this week, you're going to have to come visit me in the loony bin. That's the kind of thing I think you're talking about, is people to do life with.
Yes.
It's easy to be at church and wear the mask. Having grown up in church, there's a behavior for church that's expected that you can only hold on to for so long. And sometimes you're not even having it when you park the car because you've had a rough time coming in. Pull yourself together, put on the face, then walk back out, and it drops. And you need people to see the real you, to walk the path with you, because there is nothing worse than being in a crowd and being alone.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I want to encourage people to stop doing. I see so many people, they just sit alone and there's all this space, they're just right in the middle of the aisle, the pew, and my heart just kind of breaks.
Yeah.
Not interacting. And maybe I annoy a few people, but I try so hard to just say, oh, hi, I love what you're wearing tonight. That purple is gorgeous, or how's your week been? Who knows? Like I said, they may not appreciate it all the time, but I'm going to keep reaching out.
So before we go, I always have a question that's either from a listener or from a previous podcast interview that I've had.
Okay.
And here's a question for you. If God dropped you in a completely different environment, culture, everything, what would you do to not just survive that environment, but to thrive in that environment?
Oh, I love this. Believe it or not, I have a saying, I can be happy anywhere, because I believe most every place on this planet has wonderful things. And so you're not going to be surprised by this answer. I would find the Catholic Church that's nearby, first of all, and get in there and figure out what service I'm going to go to and how to get involved. Not a shocker on that answer. And then the other thing is I'm going to look around at my community and see what volunteer opportunities there are. That always helps a lot. And in our age with social media and so many things going on, it's not hard to find that.
Yep.
Yeah. So I would dive in and just see what's out there. How can I serve others? Because you've heard this a million times, probably, Samantha and other listeners and viewers. When you volunteer, you actually get more. You think, oh, I'm just helping this person, but then you get the best feelings in the world, and it's so rewarding for you as well.
Those are major dopamine hits.
Yeah. I volunteer at a therapeutic horseback riding center. And so I try to find the nearest one of those too.
Mm-hmm. So tell everybody how they can find you, all your social media.
All right. Absolutely. So I'm going to start with my website. It's Amy Thornton Shankland.com. And then on Facebook, it's author Amy Thornton. Instagram, it's Amy Shankland. Sorry for the confusion, but it is what it is. And then I'm also on LinkedIn. You can find me on Amy Shankland there.
Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And please look up Happy and Solo at Church, Light Your Fire, and Worship with Joy on Amazon. I promise you, if you're a solo attendee, it will change your life.
That is exactly what a lot of people need. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here and spending this time with me. If this episode encouraged you, gave you clarity, or helped you think differently about your purpose and what God is calling you to do, I would love for you to follow the podcast, share it with someone who might need it too. Because the more we talk about faith, obedience, and living in God's purpose, the more we begin to recognize how God is working in our everyday lives too. And if you're in a place right now where you're asking, what is God calling me to do? How do I find my purpose? How do I hear God's voice more clearly? I've created something for you. It's a free guided resource called Living Out God's Purpose, 21-day journal and prayer prompts. It's about helping you slow down, quiet the noise, and begin to realign your life with what God is already speaking. You can download it for free using the link in the show notes. And just remember this as you go, you don't have to do everything. You just have to be faithful in what God has given you. That is what John 17:4 means. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next episode.